When people talk about leadership, they usually talk about specific people. Strong leaders, weak leaders, good leaders, bad leaders. But in the last video, we talked about something that changes how leadership makes sense. Once people become a group, coordination becomes the real work a group has to do. So today's question builds directly on that idea. What does leadership actually do for group coordination? I'm Professor Bailey. I have a Ph.D. in organizational communication, and this is everyday organizational behavior. Here's the idea for this video. Leadership matters, not necessarily because leaders are special people, but because leadership can help groups coordinate when alignment is difficult. That means leadership is best understood as a function, not as a personality trait or a moral role. Leadership often emerges because groups need coordination, not because someone is the most competent person in the room. When groups face uncertainty, time pressure, ambiguity, they often look for someone who seems to speak with confidence, take initiative, provide direction, and this helps groups feel more coordinated and confident, even if it doesn't necessarily guarantee a better outcome. A 1986 meta-analysis on the relationship between personality traits and perceptions of leader focused on leadership categorization. It showed that people rely on mental prototypes of what a leader looks like when making sense of group situations. Visibility and confidence often matter more than actual expertise in these moments. Related work in 2010 in Academy of Management Review describes leadership as something that is claimed and granted through interaction. People step into leadership roles and others either accept or reject them in that role based on whether they think it will help the group move forward. This is why leadership emergence and leadership effectiveness are not necessarily the same. Someone may emerge as a leader because they reduce uncertainty or they coordinate attention, not because they actually improve coordination in the long run. Leadership emergence is often about coordination signals, not just competence. Leadership matters most when coordination demands are high and when systems are weak. This idea shows up across decades of leadership research, especially in contingency approaches. Rather than asking what makes a good leader, these theories ask, under what conditions does leadership actually matter, and how does it work? Classic work in this tradition, starting with contingency models and continuing through modern team research, suggests that leadership has the strongest impact when tasks are highly interdependent, when goals are unclear, roles are ambiguous, and feedback is weak or delayed. In contrast, when coordination is already supported by clear roles, strong routines, shared expectations, well-designed systems, leadership behavior tends to matter less. Research synthesized in Richard Hackman's 2002 book Leading Teams and his 2005 journal article with two colleagues consistently shows that team design often explains more than leader behavior. This reframes leadership as conditional, not just universally powerful. That means leadership doesn't always matter equally. It matters most when coordination is hard and matters least when coordination is already embedded in the system. Many groups coordinate effectively without relying heavily on a leader at all. This idea comes from research on what are often called substitutes for leadership, originally developed in organizational behavior research in the late 1970s. The basic idea is simple, that certain features of tasks, groups, and organizations can reduce the need for active leadership. These include clearly defined roles, strong norms about how work gets done, expertise-based authority, and standardized routines and processes. Classic organizational theory, including work by Henry Mintzberg, shows that organizations often coordinate through standardization of skills, processes, and norms, rather than through direct supervision. More recent integrative work describes coordination as emerging from accountability, predictability, and common understanding. When these are strong, leadership becomes less visible, not because it's unimportant, but because coordination is already built into the system. This is one reason leadership is often overcredited for success and overblamed for failure. When coordination works, leadership fades into the background. When coordination breaks down, leadership suddenly becomes very visible. So, if coordination is the real work of groups, then leadership is one way, among many, that groups try to manage that work. Sometimes leadership stabilizes coordination, sometimes systems do, sometimes norms and routines do, and when we focus too narrowly on leaders, we often miss the deeper coordination problems underneath. Understanding leadership means understanding what coordination work the group is facing, and how that work is being supported or undermined. Once groups move beyond coordination and start competing for resources, influence, and control, leadership takes on a more different meaning. This is where power, politics, and organizational systems come in, and that's where we're headed next.